Happy Monday at 3 o'clock. It's a very different time to be streaming. I feel like weird doing it. I keep feeling like I'm forgetting something, but I think the thing that I'm forgetting is to wait until 7 o'clock. I think that's really just it. But we're doing the member stream tonight at 7 o'clock, so there will be no public stream. You're welcome to join the member stream if you would like. You will have to become a member, which is $3.99 a month, but you can cancel anytime. And I also think, I didn't realize this, but I guess YouTube, I don't know if they've always done this, but it was, but I looked recently and you can do like a 7-day free trial or something. I don't know. I've never really looked into it, but I guess you can become a member for 7 days if you want, and then cancel later and never be charged. So if you want to come back to the member stream later tonight, there you go. You can do it for free, but I think you can probably only do it once. So I don't, that's up to you if there's maybe, if you want to save that for later, but whatever. We're here today just to do the Devil Wears Prada review and also Euphoria, because I watched both of those things last night. So we're not going to do any other pop girly news, even though I, you know, would love to talk about some stuff, but I shall keep my mouth shut about various things that are happening in the pop girly world if they are not related to The Devil Wears Prada or Euphoria for this, however long this stream is. But I saw someone ask, can I ask where that footage is from? I would love to take a closer look at some of the pieces. It's from, well, I've never said where I get my stock footage from, because they don't pay me to promote them, but I just use Motion Array for everything, for like the music, for stock footage, etc. So that's just all from Motion Array. I just put a bunch of shit together from that. So that's it. Anyway, let's get right into it. Let's talk about The Devil Wears Prada first. I do want to do like just a review. I'm not going to do like a recap. I'm not going to go through all the different things that happen in the film because it is a movie that just came out this weekend. So, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, though it's not really a movie that I think you need. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the members. It's not a thing that I think you really need like a spoiler free experience for. Like it's mostly you're watching it just to watch it, but still I am going to try to keep it mostly spoiler free. I won't talk about like the big plot points at least. So I'm just going to do a little review. I want to lead into this because I have talked about The Devil Wears Prada before. I've mentioned it in other streams, especially as this promo has ramped up. I've mentioned the fact that, like, The Devil Wears Prada is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is in my top 4 on Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd. There it is, Medusini. This is from the Ed Gein video that is now on pause as I work on something else because of that damn fucking Ryan Murphy show, but I do just love that photo. That's like an outtake. It's not in the video. I don't know what why was I looking at my hand? I have no fucking clue, but I just always have loved that photo. Rest in peace, Ed Gein video. I mean, I'll finish it eventually, but I'm probably gonna have to reshoot everything. That's another thing that you get if you become a member. You can see part 1 of the Ed Gein video that will always probably be just a members exclusive thing. And I think I'm also, when I put the new video out, by the way, I think I am gonna put the prologue back behind the paywall as well. So if you want to watch the prologue now for free, you can, but it will go back behind a paywall eventually once the new video comes out, just because it would make more sense to have the Ed Gein stuff like off to the side. But yeah, the part 1 for the Ed Gein video will probably never be public because I'm going to have to reshoot it. There'll be a new part 1, but the version that currently exists for the members is just gonna stay a members exclusive, I suppose, because now I have to fucking refilm it. But whatever, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about The Devil Wears Prada. The Devil Wears Prada is one of my favorite movies ever, ever, ever. So I had a lot of reservations going into this new film because it just didn't need a sequel. The first movie is perfect the way that it is. Never wanted any sort of like longer cinematic universe for it. Didn't need it to be a franchised series. Didn't need a sequel whatsoever. So from the very moment that the sequel was announced, I was just over it. I was like, I'd rather not, thank you. So I was already kind of against it. And then everything that came out, there's a lot of stuff about the promo that I've appreciated. It has had a very big promotional campaign, which is cool. And some of that stuff is fun, but a lot of the stuff that came out about the movie, the thing that they were actually promoting, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. I don't know about this whatsoever. So, like, first of all, the teaser that they put out a while ago, 5 months ago, I was like, what the fuck is up with these shoes that Miranda is wearing? What is up with this lighting? I also thought that Meryl Streep's pose in the elevator was very, like, forced and kind of stiff, so I didn't love that. Just a lot about the promo that I wasn't super here for. And the more that came out, I mean, here's the thing with the shoes. The I should say that this is literally just a teaser for the movie. This is not in the movie. She never wears these shoes in the movie. She doesn't do this pose in the movie. So I have to imagine maybe that's why Meryl's pose was a little stiff. It's like she wasn't fully in character, perhaps. She was just like, oh, whatever, let's just get this little teaser thing over with. But the shoes also, the, like, costume designer from the movie came out later and was like, oh, yeah, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. She said, I'm gonna give you the real story, okay? I had gone forward to Milan, where we were gonna shoot some scenes. I was not there that day when they were shooting another scene, and they just popped the shoes on Meryl. I had chosen another shoe. I got panicked phone calls from assistants saying that the marketing team had decided that they liked this other shoe, which at the time I took great offense to because I knew that a marketing person didn't know anything about a rock stud, and I did not think it was appropriate for Miranda to wear a rock stud. From afar, I was sending pins into voodoo dolls. And yeah, she's correct. Miranda wouldn't wear those shoes. And so I was put off by that from the first trailer. And then also everything, and this is a problem with the movie in general. It's not a huge problem, but it is uglier than the first movie. Like, and not in like a super noticeable way, I think, especially if you're not directly comparing the original to the new one. It doesn't look that bad, like, when you're actually just watching the new movie, but there is just something about movies that get made now where they all have this very, like, blue tone to them. They're very, like, cool toned, just, like, cold. I don't really like it. I like the kind of warmer colors of the original. And so that I just wasn't super pleased with. And I've seen people trying to defend this because a lot of people are pulling out, like, promo stuff or, like, screenshots that have been edited from the original to make it look like even more like the colors pop in the original. And then people are like, well, that's not even true to the original movie. And so, yeah, the differences aren't as pronounced as some people on social media are making them out to be, but there is still a difference. I mean, look at these two shots specifically. This is literally just, that's from the movie. They look very different, and I don't like the way that this one looks. But this is, again, a problem with the way that movies get made now, period. A lot of them look like this, and I just don't love that. So I didn't like that. Every little bit of promo that came out, I was like, oh, it's ugly. But it isn't something that is super noticeable when you're watching the movie, because especially compared to a lot of other movies that come out nowadays, I don't think it's as ugly as a lot of other modern movies. But that's not saying a whole lot. But my bigger concern, and why I was, like, really not looking forward to this film, and I thought that it was actually gonna, like, make me kind of angry, I was a little worried about... So, The Devil Wears Prada, when it first came out, not like a super critically acclaimed film. A lot of critics turned their nose up at it. Audiences seemed to like it. Women especially really liked it. The girls and the gays, as per usual, were correct. And so as time has gone on, this has remained a beloved film for many a girl and a gay. And a lot of, like, hetero men have even looked back on it and have been like, oh yeah, actually this was really good. So it's gained a lot of acclaim with time. It's looked back on retrospectively very fondly, and it's become, like, a bigger part of cultural discourse as it's aged. But as it's aged and it's gotten like a larger audience and more people are into The Devil Wears Prada, there has just been a lot of discourse around the film that I haven't found to be super representative of what the original film was actually doing and what it was actually saying. There are a few hot takes about The Devil Wears Prada that I just don't agree with and that I don't think is supported by the text. So I was a little worried in particular about like a kind of girl boss narrative maybe coming through in this new movie. If it was in response, if it was kind of like, if the filmmakers were maybe excited about the new popularity of the film, the increased popularity since its release, if they maybe were going to lean more into some of the fan stuff and the way that fans have interpreted the film, I was nervous that it was going to become more of like the girl boss manifesto that people act like the original is, which it's just not. Because there's this one line in the movie, and it's very similar, by the way, to another movie that is also in my Letterboxd top 4, Jennifer's Body. There's a line in Jennifer's Body. Well, actually, it's not in Jennifer's Body. That's the thing. But a lot of people have tried to, like, when Jennifer's Body kind of got, like, a renewed, like, retrospective look at it. Like, people look back at Jennifer's Body and they were like, oh, actually, that was a good movie the entire time. There was a huge focus from a lot of people, specifically I remember The Take putting out a video, and also Vox wrote an article about it too. There were a lot of people trying to contextualize Jennifer's Body as like a rape revenge film, which I think it has elements of, but I don't think that that's like the core thematic lens of the film. But people really try to use the dialogue where Needy says to Jennifer, you're killing people, and Jennifer says, no, I'm killing boys. They try to use that as like the backbone for their arguments, that it's all about Jennifer taking out her rage on men because of what happened to her. And I don't think that really comes through in the entirety of the film. I don't think that that's Jennifer's motives. But also, to use that one line about I'm killing boys as, like, the backbone for your argument, it just doesn't really make any sense considering that line isn't in the movie. Period. It's in the trailer for the movie, but then it's in a deleted scene. That scene is not in the movie. So, like, doesn't make much sense to act like that's the thesis statement for the film. With The Devil Wears Prada, this makes more sense because this is a piece of dialogue in the movie. So there's that. But Andy at one point says, Miranda is tough, but if she were a man, no one would notice anything about her except how great she is at her job. And I think that there were a lot of people that took that line and they're like, yeah, that's the theme of the film, that Miranda actually did nothing wrong. All of Andy's friends are the actual villains. And I'm like, no? I think it's fairly clear from the rest of the film that when Andy says this, she's somewhat in denial of how bad her job is, because Miranda is definitely very abusive. And sure, maybe men in similar positions can be just as, if not more abusive and get away with it. But that doesn't mean that Miranda's, like, a good person or an okay person, even. I feel like the original film really does kind of hit you over the head with, like, oh, no, she's actually a huge asshole. Not just asshole on, like, a day-to-day basis of, like, she's impatient or whatever. Like, she's vindictive. She's narcissistic. She's manipulative. Those things. I do hate her boyfriend, though. Yeah, it makes more sense to me for people to hate Nate, especially because of, I think, the way that the video is, or not video, the way that the movie is framed. Because it is framed sort of from Andy's perspective. But I do think that, like, the whole Nate is the villain thing is really, it's just not totally true. Like, he doesn't really do anything wrong. And I think one of the bigger problems, too, is, like, and no offense to him, but the guy who plays him, Adrian Grenier, I don't know how you say his last name, but I think that he he just has an association with him. I'm sure he's a lovely man. But he was one of the main guys in Entourage, and that's just not a very, like, woman-friendly show. So I think a lot of people at this point, just when they see his face, are like, oh, that's a douche. Sorry to him. But I think that's also kind of a factor there. I don't think you have to, you don't have to like Nate or any of her friends to still not think that he's the villain. He didn't really do anything. But whatever, we're not going to get into that right now. But the whole, like, girl boss narrative of... Well, I don't think that there is a girl boss narrative in the original film, but I think that people have interpreted a girl boss narrative from it. And I was really worried about that going into this movie just because of the amount that Anna Wintour has been involved in the promo. Because if you don't know, The Devil Wears Prada, the first movie, is based on a book, and the book is like a piece of autofiction where the author of the book is telling like a fictionalized version of her own experience being Anna Wintour's personal assistant. And the book is really not flattering toward Anna at all. The book is pretty nasty toward her because she is kind of a nasty person. But the movie for sure adds a lot of nuance to Miranda's character, Miranda being the fictionalized version of Anna. So there is a lot of nuance added to her in the first movie that makes her like a more kind of understandable, nuanced person. But it's still not acting like she's a good person. And with the amount that Anna has been involved in the promo campaigns, I was like, are we going to get like a really pro Miranda movie? And we kind of do. But it's not as bad as I was worried it was going to be, for one thing. But I was very worried. My big thing was like, I just don't want this to be a movie. I don't want this sequel to be a movie that misses the point of the original film. And I started to get a little bit more nervous about that as well when Anne Hathaway was talking about how I guess she had pushed for more body diversity in a runway scene. And I'll let her say it.
I had noticed that we had beautiful models on set, and a lot of them were maybe more traditionally model sized. And I knew what the context of the scene was, and I thought the scene would be so much more enjoyable for the audience if we had just a wider range of bodies on display, because all different shapes are beautiful. And so I just went to the producers and I asked that question, don't you think the scene would be stronger if we had a more inclusive approach to size, and they looked up and they were so sad that they hadn't thought about it. I think they were so locked in that they just kind of were going with the flow, but as soon as they saw it, they were the ones who just made it happen in like an hour. So,
you're a good leader. You started the conversation.
Oh, well, it all begins with a question, right?
And this, I was like, okay, I get that I'm for body inclusivity in general, especially in fashion, but I was a little bit nervous about, like, the first movie, there isn't a whole lot of body inclusivity, but that's also part of the point. Like, it really does hit you over the head quite a lot with the fact that, like, the fashion industry is very, like, fat phobic. That's a huge part of the original film. It's a part of, like, it's like a motif, I guess. It's something about, like, it's a commentary on the fashion industry in general and how, like, you get sucked into it and, like, whatever. We don't need to go through all the original, but I was like, there is, like, a commentary on the fashion industry and on Vogue and on just, like, the culture around these publications. There's a commentary that exists in the first movie where I was like, just adding more body inclusivity on the second movie, I was concerned that it was going to lose a lot of that commentary, and I was concerned that it was going to paint like a more like rosy picture of the fashion industry, and especially with my reservations about the girl boss the girl bossification of Miranda, I was like, oh, this is about to be like a pro fashion industry film, isn't it? So I was very nervous about that. Now, having watched the film, I will say that it's like, it did not make me as angry as I thought it was going to. It did not miss the point of the original film the way that I thought that it was going to. It just sort of has a separate agenda in a way that I do kind of appreciate, where it is, honestly, it's not, it doesn't make a whole lot of commentary on the fashion industry. It doesn't really make much at all. But it's not really the point of the movie. It's more focused on like the state of media and the state of journalism, which I do appreciate for one thing, because I feel like it has more motive to exist than I was expecting it to. That was kind of my big thing of like, I was worried that it was just going to be a cash grab. It was just going to be on, it was just going to be like a way for them to capitalize on the popularity of the original film, the fact that people love the original film, and it was going to ignore any sort of the like biting commentary that the first film had just to do fan service. And the movie it has more reason to exist than that. It is trying to say something. It's thematically focused on something else. So I appreciate that. Do I think that it worked well? No. For one thing, this whole thing, part of it makes sense in the context of the film for there to be a little bit more body diversity on this runway, because part of it is about how like the media landscape has changed, and there's even a line where Miranda says something about body positivity and she seems kind of against it. So it is sort of telling this story a little bit of like Miranda being out of step with the current culture. It doesn't do that super thoroughly or cohesively at all. And especially with this scene in particular that they're referencing, it's funny because my original complaint was like, oh, I think that kind of misses the point of what the original film was doing. But then I'm like, okay, well, now I've gotten into what the new film is doing, separate of the first movie. So now I'm more down with this scene in concept. However, I'm a little confused because watching the movie, didn't notice a whole lot of body diversity. Like, I'd like to see what the original models looked like on that runway, because I was expecting to actually see like true body diversity on that stage, and no? Don't really even know what Anne is talking about here. I guess maybe that's even a thing with the edit, possibly, that we just didn't get to see enough of the models on the runway, but the models we did see all looked pretty thin to me. Maybe not as thin as they were in like the 2000s, but like I didn't see an actual true diversity on that runway. But okay. So I think the big problem with the movie is it's just like, it's just a mess. That's really it. Like, I think the intentions are good. It has a motive for existing, but first of all, there's like 5 different plots happening at the same time, and like at least half of them just don't need to fucking be there. There's also, the pacing is pretty bad. There are way too many throwaway characters. There are characters that show up for like a few minutes or are just there to like symbolize something in relation to the original film. Like, Caleb Heron's character is supposed to kind of be in the position that Andy was in the first movie. Which, like, okay, throwback, I guess. He's there to represent, I don't know, like, he doesn't really matter. He doesn't matter to the story a whole lot. There's a lot of characters that I don't think really matter. And that's a little frustrating just in terms of, like, I know what this writer is capable of. Like, it is written and directed by the same people that did the first movie. And I know that, like, I think that the first Devil Wears Prada movie is, like, kind of just a perfect film in terms of, like, it is so tight. Like, everything that is in the movie needed to be there. And that is very not true with this new film. There's a lot that could have gotten cut. There's a lot of just, like, different plot lines that I'm not interested in, that don't really add much. For instance, there is a romantic subplot that I give zero fucks about entirely. The second that this man came on screen, I was like, I don't want to know about him. I don't care about him. And then he just kind of kept coming back. But even then, he kept coming back so sporadically that there was a point in the film where I thought, have we just dropped that plot line completely? Are we just not doing that anymore? I haven't seen this man for like half of the movie now. And then, of course, like, as soon as I thought that, like, the next scene, Anne's friend says to Anne, it's Andy's romantic subplot. So there it is. There's a spoiler. Andy specifically has a romantic subplot. Her friend says something to her about, like, oh, shouldn't you go talk to him, make things right with him? And I'm like, what? We're still doing this? And it also didn't make sense. Here's, like, a slight spoiler. But it doesn't matter, because the romantic subplot literally doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if I spoil this. They get into some, like, tiny little argument at one point midway through the film. It doesn't even really seem like that big of a deal. Like, it just seems like she's in a bad mood, and it's kind of snappy. And he's like, okay, whatever, I'll talk to you after you get back from Italy. And so they go to Italy, they do the whole thing there. There's a bunch of shit that happens there. She comes back at the end of the film, and then her friend is like, maybe you should make things right with him. And I'm like, oh, is he still mad? I didn't even think that was, like, a big fight. I would have never even thought that, like, oh, that's something that she needs to resolve later. But then she goes back to his apartment and is, like, apologizing to him. And I'm like, for what? You were kind of snippy one day, weeks ago, however long ago it was. I don't even know how long the Italy thing was supposed to take place in. Like, it's a very badly paced movie. I really don't even know what the timeline of the events are. It's not very good. And this is a larger problem too. I appreciate the fact that the movie isn't as focused on the fashion industry, so I don't need as much commentary for the fashion industry in this film compared to the first one. However, with the movie thematically being more focused on journalism and the state of media and stuff, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense given the amount that we're still focused on fashion in the movie. Like, in the first movie, there's a lot of fashion. There's a lot of, like, you know, montages of different outfits and such. There's discussions of different fabrics. There's discussions of, like, you know, the color, the cerulean blue or whatever the fuck. Cerulean, I don't know how you even say it, but there's talk about, like, specific things related to fashion, and that makes sense because it's a fashion movie. It has, like, a deeper story. I think that the first movie is a piece of, like, it's a piece of existentialist fiction. It's a masterpiece. It's very philosophical, but it is set specifically in the fashion world, and it makes sense for those things to come up in that story because Andy is being somewhat seduced by fashion. She is changing aspects of herself to fit into this particular mold that exists in the fashion world. So all the stuff related to fashion, all the different montages and everything, that all makes sense for what the character is focused on and what, like, the thematic focus of the movie is. For all that stuff to still be in the second movie when the second movie is supposed to be focused on journalism and the state of media, it doesn't really work. And that's one of my biggest problems with the movie is, like, I don't get to see Andy doing her job enough. You get little glimpses of it, but it's like after she's already written something. So if you don't know, the whole new movie, the basic plot is that Andy is now working at Runway again because there was some controversy that Miranda got into, so they had to, like, fire the old features editor or something, and they brought Andy in to kind of like correct things. So she's the new like editor of the features department. So Andy is now a writer, as she wanted to be in the first movie. She is a journalist. She is running the runway features department. And I don't see her doing anything in relation to that until, like, you see her, like, score one interview. But even then, I feel like that's glossed over fairly quickly. You see her, like, mentioning, like, oh, I released this article that's doing good. And then people are like, oh, but it's not getting any engagement. And I'm like, okay, well, could I have at least seen her, like, working on the article? Could I have seen her, like, putting stuff together and, like, doing things in relation to journalism? She even, at the beginning of the movie, she hires one of her friends from one of her old jobs as a journalist, someone that she worked with, a coworker. She hires them to, like, her team. And then later in the movie, he comes back up and he's like, oh, yeah, I really want to keep this job or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I forgot he was working there. We have spent such little time with Andy actually doing her job that I forgot that she has a specific team that she's working with. So that part's really messy. It is, again, there's like 5 different plots happening at once. There are still some like pretty good moments, but it's like a good idea. It almost, if I think of this movie as like a pitch, if this was like an outline, if this were like a pilot in a way, they don't do pilots for movies, but if they did, if they sent me this, I'd be like, okay, I like the idea here. I get where you're going. I think we need to work on maybe dropping this plot line. Maybe we could put a little bit less focus on the fashion, maybe more focus on the journalism. Like, it feels just like a very early draft of a movie that actually did have a good idea. So that's it. That's really my take on the movie. It was okay. And that's it. I do have a few other notes. Too many references to the original film. It was very annoying, really. Like, different things of the florals for spring. Fuck off. Andy is wearing the same sweater at one point that she wore in the original film. It's just a lot. It's a lot of references, and I just didn't need it. It felt insecure in a way of like, you don't think that this movie could stand on its own? You need to constantly be reminding me of what the original film was like. Didn't need that. It's trying too hard to hit the beats of the original film in a lot of ways. I think that's even kind of why the romantic subplot is in there. It's like, well, we kind of had a romantic subplot in the first movie, but even in the first movie, it's like, well, that was still a little bit more motivated, wasn't it? I mean, it was about like her relationship with her previous life and her friends and her boyfriend, and then getting seduced by this other guy who turns out to be kind of creepy and weird. Like, that was a little more motivated, but it felt like they still were like, well, there were boys in the first movie. There were people for Andy to flirt with, so we need that in this movie. There were a few things where it was like, it felt like because there are so many iconic lines in the first film, that there was a concerted effort to get those kind of iconic lines in this new film, and some of them, it just felt so like, I can tell that's what you're doing, and I don't think it's gonna work. And some of the lines were still kind of good, but it's like, well, it just doesn't hit the same way that it does in the original, because the original, it just felt more natural. It didn't feel like the writers were trying as hard to like make a specific kind of thing. Whereas this, it feels like they are trying to take this idea that they have and jam it into the formula for the first movie. Miranda's character also felt really inconsistent. I think that they did sand her down quite a lot, and they made her a little too overly sentimental. Andy's character was annoying, frequently. I just found her kind of annoying, and I don't understand some of the decisions she makes, but to really talk about that, I'd have to, like, get into spoilers, so we're not gonna go into that. Emily's character is very important, but underutilized, in my opinion. I think she should have been a part of the movie more, but that could also be another thing that would be solved if we just cut out, like, 3 other plot lines. Great soundtrack. Horrible sound mixing. Like, confusingly bad. When the movie first came on, it was so fucking loud. It opens with End of an Era by Dua Lipa, which I thought was a perfectly fine opening song. It opens with that, and it's so fucking loud that I thought that my theater had just turned the volume up in their own, like, auditorium. I thought, like, oh, they set it to, like, a higher setting than normal. But no, the rest of the movie is a normal volume. It's like normal movie volume. But then every time like a song comes back on and they want to emphasize the song, it is just fucking blaring. And what's really kind of awful about that is that when they needed to go back into the movie and they needed to like have dialogue speak their lines, it is so noticeable the amount that they have to turn the song down. Like, you can't just easily transition into it because it was so goddamn loud. And then there are also just scenes where it's, like, way too quiet. Like, there's no, like, background music. There's no background score. There's not a whole lot of background noise. It just makes, like, the spaces that the characters are in feel really empty at times. And, yeah, it just wasn't very good. I was very confused by some of the decisions made with the sound. That being said, Lady Gaga was in it, and as per usual, she was
talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth to it.
Yeah, she was great. And that's it. Now, there have been a few controversies surrounding the film. For one, I guess this is kind of a controversy. People, I don't really know. There's a like a 2-second clip where it shows Miranda being like canceled, and someone made like an AI thing of her. And so this showed up, and people maybe were upset that they thought that there was actual AI in the movie, but there wasn't. It was actually created by a human artist who said, absolutely no disrespect to Queen Meryl, but this is something I would have painted in my free time, so when they asked me to do it, it was nothing but fun. Now, I don't really even think it totally looks like AI. I think it does kind of look like a painting, but it's supposed to look like AI, but I don't know. I guess people were upset about that. But there was no AI in the movie. And how could there be? I mean, it's a movie sort of about the state of media, including the takeover of AI. So it would be fairly hypocritical of them to put that in the film, but they didn't. Though I guess they are somewhat hypocritical anyway, because there is a little bit of commentary about, like, the way that advertisers run media, essentially. And the movie is, like, very heavy in product placement and various different ads. And also the promo around the movie has been partnered with a lot of different brands. So, like, I guess there's some hypocrisy there. But no, they did not use AI. Then there is also controversy around this character. This is Andy's new assistant as she's running the features department. And I guess there was backlash from the Asian community that she is a stereotype. Now, I was somewhat aware of the controversy before. Why is it blurred? Like, what do you want me to do to be able to read this? Okay, there we go. I was aware that there was controversy prior to going into the film, so I was kind of on the lookout for it, but I tried not to look too much into it before I actually saw the movie. I just was aware that there was controversy. So I guess there was a clip that went around on Twitter that was viewed over 25 million times, and it says it set off a firestorm of debate in China, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and elsewhere, with social media up in arms over everything from the character being named Jin Chow, with some suggesting it sounded too close to the highly racist and offensive phrase Ching Chong, to the way she dresses, her awkwardness, and her being an extreme academic high achiever, all of which many people felt played into age-old Hollywood stereotypes of Asian people. Now, I just don't really think that the name sounds that much like that phrase. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't think that those two sounds are that similar. I do know, because I looked into it, and I guess the character is named after a childhood friend of the writer. So that is just a real person's name, for one thing. But I was like, okay, I went into the movie thinking, like, there's controversy around this, so I was kind of on the lookout for this. And I don't know if they write it in here, but there was specifically the one thing that I noticed while watching the movie. Oh, right here. Here it is. So Jin she gets kind of put into this position as Andy's assistant, but Andy doesn't actually, like, interview her at all. She was, like, an intern at Runway who, when finding out that there was a new position opening for an assistant, got into that position and had very little competition because apparently none of the other interns at Runway want to work in the features department. They all want to work specifically in like fashion stuff. So she comes up to Andy and she says, if you don't want me, you can interview someone else. That's totally fine. I did go to Yale, 3.86 GPA, lead soprano of the Woofin' Poofs, and my ACT score was 36 on the very first time. So when I watched that scene, I was like, okay, I guess I get how people could take that as, like, an Asian stereotype of, like, her having, like, really good grades or something, like her GPA being really good, her being a high achiever academically. But I do think that if I were watching the movie and I didn't know that there was any sort of controversy around it, I probably wouldn't have thought anything of those lines, because it just felt like this is a person trying to pitch themselves for a job. You know, like, these are kind of things that you might put on your resume to get a job. So I didn't think much of it, though I can understand why people would still be kind of put off by it. But then the one thing about her outfits, her seemingly sensible office attire, which was at odds with her high fashion surroundings, and specifically her wearing glasses, I was like, I don't know. I read this article and everything about it after I'd already watched the movie. I didn't think that her outfit was that weird in the movie at all. Like, she didn't seem that out of place to me, because I feel like this is just kind of how young people dress now. Like, they have glasses like that. And she is maybe not as fashionable as some of the other people around her, but that makes sense for the character, because, again, she wanted to work in the features department. None of the other interns at Runway wanted to work in the features department. They wanted to work in something more specifically related to fashion, so it would make sense that she was a little bit less fashionable than the other girls there. But even then, I don't think that she's any less fashionable. I think she's definitely more fashionable than Andy was in the first movie. So I just didn't think much of her attire at all watching the movie. It was only after reading the stuff that people said afterward that I even knew that the attire was a thing that people were upset about. But I don't know. I think this is something where, like, the only thing about the character that seems specifically informed by her race, to me, was just the name. Because it would make sense to me for her to have, like, a high GPA. It would make sense for her to be a high-achieving person because she's an intern at Runway, which in real life would be Vogue. The people who work at Vogue, even the interns, those are high-achieving people. Those are people who have, like, done pretty well. Especially if they're an intern, like, they're like, in college, essentially. So, like, they probably went to a very good college that got them an in to Vogue. So I was like, well, it makes sense to me for the circumstances that she exists in. The only thing that I can think of with, like, her actual, like, her Asian identity informing the character is literally just the name. So at that point, I'm like, I get maybe why, especially if you just saw the clips before you watched the movie, I can see why it would ring, like, alarm bells, and especially if that's something that, like, you're sensitive to. Like, if you're an Asian person who's had to deal with being stereotyped, I can see why you would like, why there are red flags being raised. But watching the movie, there's just nothing, the only thing about the character that really needed to, the thing that I think is informing the character the most is her age. Like, she just needed to be someone 19 to 25. Everything else, with like her high achieving stuff, that's all just baked into the fact that she works at Runway. So the main complaint here to me is not even how the character is written. It does seem like the main complaint is the fact that they cast an Asian woman for that character because it happens to fit a stereotype. And to me, that seems a little unfair of like, should this actress have not gotten this opportunity because it happens to brush up against some things that could be stereotypes? I don't know. But maybe other people, I'm a white woman, so I'm not going to pick up on like some of those microaggressions and stuff the same way that like an Asian person would. So maybe there's more to it that I'm not understanding. But when I just watched the movie, I was like, I just don't think that her being Asian is that relevant to the way that this character was written or styled, for that matter. This is something that Joseph Kahn said that I do kind of agree with. Joseph Kahn, he is Korean himself, and he's also a filmmaker and a music video director. Directed very, very many music videos that are some of the best in pop history. But he said there's an uproar with Japanese Twitter about this Asian character. They feel she's a caricature, which she is, but not about Asians, but Gen Z. And that I do kind of agree with. I think that like her being a very young person, her being a Zoomer is like the main point of that character. Her outfit is actually very couture in a film about fashion. Her glasses and hair clips are of the moment. The body shape disparity comes from Anne Hathaway, who mandated there would be diversity of sizes. Oh, I didn't even know that there was like, we were saying anything about her body shape. I didn't pick up on that at all. Which could either be taken as genuine virtue signaling or an actress wanting to be the skinniest and tallest on screen. Jesus. Nevertheless, the Asian character is being depicted as a fashionable striver in the fashion world with typical Gen Z neurodivergency. Nerds don't exist in Gen Z because they're all awkward freaks and all dressed like Nintendo cartoons. Yeah, maybe. A little bit. Yeah, I just thought that she was a Zoomer. So that's my take on that. But again, you should probably listen to someone who has more experience with dealing with Asian stereotypes than I do. There's also, I guess, been some fucking controversy around Runway, the song that Gaga and Doechii contributed to this, along with the music video. People are calling it, like, queer baiting, which to me is somewhat offensive given the fact that, like, these are both queer women. Can they queer bait? I don't know. But then Pitchfork is calling it, like, queer word salad. And it's like, it's a movie about fashion. It's about the runway. It's somewhat referential to, like, Vogue, which I think at this point you could maybe call some of Vogue's lyrics queer word salad. I don't think that it's actually, I think it's just a style of song, not an effort in pandering. But okay, whatever. There's controversy around that. Apparently the movie is also being shown in Screen X theaters. I don't understand the point of Screen X fucking period. It's like this thing where there's the movie and then there's other screens surrounding it to give you a more like three-dimensional, like surrounded version of the film. And, like, it's a cool idea in theory, but only if the filmmakers made the movie with that in mind, which at that point you could only show it on those screens. You couldn't show it in any other movie theater. So I don't think it's ever really going to make any sense unless people start making movies specifically for Screen X. And yeah, here it's like, okay, cool. We're surrounded by just random posts, and then here's the car scene. So like in the regular movie it's just Meryl and Nigel in the back, but then I guess in the Screen X version, you have Andy and the driver off to the side here. Did they film that? Like, did they know we're gonna do a Screen X version? So, like, Anne and this actor who's doing the driver, like, just sit there. Look normal. Look like you're on a normal fucking car ride. What a strange thing to exist. And then there is a lot of brand deals surrounding this movie. L'Oreal Paris, Lancome, Tresemme, Diet Coke, Smart Water, Starbucks, Grey Goose Vodka, Samsung, Google, Mercedes, Tiffany, Dior, Valentino, Fragrance, a lot of other stuff. Tweezerman, Lulu's, Tangle Tweezer. Just a lot of capitalism surrounding the film, which, you know, I guess do what you have to do. And they do have a website. There's a lot of interactive promo for this movie. So they have a runway website that I think is supposed to kind of look like an actual fashion website, like Vogue's website kind of looks like, sorta. And then they are selling, I don't know where you buy these, but there is an actual runway magazine that they're selling somewhere. I saw it on, you can buy it on eBay for a fairly cheap price right now, but I don't know where they're officially being sold, but this is what they look like. It does just look like a fashion magazine. It looks like Vogue. So that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll try to buy that. I did buy, speaking of their merch, I did pre-order the fucking bag because I wanted this bag the second that I saw it, but it sold out at my local theater, like, immediately. So I couldn't buy it in person. So the only thing I could do is pre-order it, which I thought at the time I ordered it on, like, August 30th, or not August 30th, April 30th, and I saw it said the item will be available to ship on August 30th, but I misread it as April 30th, and I was like, perfect, that's today. They'll send it out today or tomorrow. No, it's August 30th, which means that I will not be getting it until September. And I had to pay $15 in shipping. Better be fucking worth it. But it is really cute, so I'm excited about that. I never even really get popcorn at the movies, though, so but I just wanted it. I just wanted it. But the movie is doing really well. It has the second biggest opening of 2026 so far. Biggest live action, because number one is the Super Mario Galaxy movie, where they didn't give Birdo any fucking lines. It is both Meryl Streep's and Emily Blunt's career best openings, which is crazy. And it's also doing better than the Michael movie. Fuck, where's my... Oh, what the hell? Pretend I played that in a more opportune time. So yeah, it's doing very well, which I am happy about. Even though I don't love the movie, I don't think it's like a super well-written movie. I love that it's doing well, just because I love The Devil Wears Prada, and I think that the franchise, I guess now that it is a franchise, I just think it deserved it. Oh shit, I'm not logged in. Let me log in. Here's just my face. What is my fucking password? What is my password? Oh, I got it. Okay. Shit, sorry. Okay, yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars. I already put this up, but then I deleted it because I was like, well, I don't want to give anyone any spoilers, because if I pull up my letterbox, you're going to see what I gave it before I even talk about the movie. So, 2.5 stars. There's my review. It's been 20 years and they still won't put any liquid in those damn Starbucks cups. That always drives me nuts. It's like a pet peeve my mom had watching movies, that like she would always notice when there wasn't liquid in like cups. Because you can tell when they're picking something up, it's like the weight of the actual object. Whatever they're picking up is way too light. And that's a problem in the first movie, especially like in the scenes where Andy is running down the street with like a tray with Starbucks cups in it. It's like there's nothing in those cups. There is nothing in those cups. And that continues to be a problem in this movie. It's not as bad because no one's running around with a tray full of them. But still, every time they pick up a damn Starbucks cup, no liquid in them whatsoever. But let's move on to Euphoria. So, we're going to do a full recap for this one, as we do. Rue is in some shit again, as per usual. But at this point, as this tweeter did say, Rue doesn't even try to get out of shit anymore. She just looks at you like this. That is really what she does. She's somewhat given up, in a way. And not even, like, I don't know. There is something about the way that Rue's character is written now where I'm like, she's just not as crafty as she used to be. She's a little bit more, maybe she's just tired, because she does keep getting into a lot of shit. But she's also kind of stupid. So we open up the episode with Rue getting questioned by the DEA. So the last episode ended, the DEA had pulled her over. They were like, are you Rue Bennett? She was like, yeah. And so now we're seeing her getting questioned. She's lying as she's being questioned, never thinks to say, I would like to speak to a lawyer. Also is just not very good at lying, which, you know, I guess it's fine, but it does just, it feels like my girl has given up. It almost felt like she wanted to get caught in some ways. Rue in the first season was just more manipulative in a way. She was better at getting away with things. But yeah, now she's kind of dumb. But now she works with the cops. So she's now a rat. In just 4 episodes of Euphoria, Rue went from working for Lori to working for Alamo and now working for the police. Yeah, they just keep moving my girl around. But I do think it's almost become cliche at this point to accuse the show of running like conservative propaganda, but there are a few things here and there where I'm like, oh, this does feel a little. It feels a little pro-cop-ish. So like here, listen to the DEA talking to Rue.
Look at me. I can see it deep down that you're a good kid in a bad situation. Our job is to take the drugs off the streets because too many lives have been destroyed. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So this can go 2 ways. We can either
Like, okay, first of all, I'm supposed to believe that the cop is that, like, understanding, and he's like, I can tell you're a good kid. I mean, maybe he's just kind of being manipulative to her, I suppose. But the whole thing about, like, we just need to get these drugs off the street because it's hurting a lot of people. Like, okay. is that really what the drug war is about? The war on drugs? Is it really about protecting people? I don't really think so, but it does kind of feel like that's the framing of the show, and especially the fact that they keep it specifically about like fentanyl. And yeah, fentanyl can be a very dangerous drug, but it is also like, because it's a dangerous drug, it is used in propaganda all the time. It's kind of like the current thing, the war on fentanyl. And so I don't know, it feels a little... It feels like the framing is a little weird. And yeah, turning an informant against cartels isn't pro-cop. It is kind of just basic police work. Yeah, I'm fine with that part. Her being like a rat for the cops. I'm like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And it makes sense for the police to want her to do it. That is standard police work. But it's the way that like he's writing it so that the cop actually does seem somewhat sincere in the like, we just want to get these drugs off the streets. It's that to me is where it's like, it feels like there's a framing here of like, now Rue is finally working for the good guys. It's like, maybe she's working for better guys, but I just don't think that most police officers actually care that much about public health. But whatever. I do kind of like the idea of Rue being a double agent. It adds a little something to the story, so I'm fine with this plot line in general. It then goes to the strip club after Rue gets the rundown from the cops of what she's gonna have to do. She goes back to the club with Alamo. There's a new stripper named Kitty, but I'm just gonna refer to her as Lizzie because she kind of looks like Lana Del Rey in the Lizzie Grant era. And by the way, I've mentioned it like weeks and weeks ago, but Lana had gotten annoyed at some commenter or something for like saying rest in peace Lizzie Grant or whatever. Lana had gotten annoyed. She's like, oh, I'm still Lizzie Grant, like just because I changed my hair color or whatever. I'm like, okay, but clearly the Lizzie Grant era was a different era. Like it was a different music thing for you. You were doing something else. And if you're so fucking insistent about the fact that you're the same person and Lizzie Grant never went away, put the Lizzie Grant EP on to streaming. Prove that you're the same. Put it onto streaming. But yeah, I just thought of that because she kind of looks like Lana in the Lizzie era. But so this character gets introduced. She's standing in front of Alamo and his other guys, like showing off her ass. She seems like trying to think of like a nice way to say it, but I'm like, there is no nice way to say it, and it's not really even anyone's fault other than Sam Levinson's because of the way that he wrote it. But she seems kind of like brain dead in a way. Like she doesn't have, at first, in the first few scenes that she was in, she had no lines to the point that I was like, normally when a character doesn't have any lines in a movie, it's because the production wanted to just pay them as an extra, because if you have speaking lines, then you have to get paid more. You're an actual like speaking role. And so I was like, are they trying to get away with not paying this actress? And I was like, I don't think that that's something you can do. Even if she doesn't have any speaking lines, she's clearly more than an extra. She's like center frame. But for a minute I was like, is that what's happening? Do they just not want to pay this actress more money, so they're not going to let her speak at all? But they do let her speak eventually. But in this first scene, in the first like 3 scenes she's in, she says absolutely nothing. She's just kind of like smiling and laughing and like showing her ass, and she's like, hee, see, without saying see. She just kind of like just seems kind of like there's nothing going on behind those eyes. It's just blank in there. And that's a problem for me in a variety of ways. We learn that she's from Kansas, which there is a funny line thing where Alamo is taking her to go fuck her, I guess. He's taking her through the club. Rosalia's character is there, and she says something about, like, can she even dance? And then he says she's from Kansas, and which I think is supposed to imply that, like, no, she can't dance, but she does what she can. And then Rosalia says, where's Kansas? Which I did think that was kind of funny. But still, voiceless character completely. gets taken into a room. You see Alamo undoing his pants, so you know that he's about to have sex with her. And it's a little unclear of, like, the consent nature is unclear in general in this club. Like, you don't really know why all these girls are there. It is clear that some of them are engaging in prostitution. It's unclear if they're all doing it or if it's just some of them. And the ones that are, you don't totally know if they're doing it of their own free will or if they're being coerced in any sort of way. And that's a problem that I have of, like, with this character in particular, because she never verbally consents to anything, but she also is just standing there smiling all the time. So it's like, is she okay with this? I'm genuinely not sure, because they won't make the character do anything else. And that becomes an increasing issue as the episode goes on. But so then we go to a scene with Cassie and Nate. Nate had his toe cut off in the last episode. They've now put it back on. It in a very, like, on the nose writing, like, exposition of Nate being like, he starts off by being like, the toe is a metaphor. And it's like a metaphor for them picking up the pieces or something. But he specifically says, like, the toe is a metaphor. It fell off my foot, but then we got it. And we put it on ice, and we took it to the hospital, and they put it back on. It's like, okay, I could have actually kind of picked that up from the fact that your toe was back on, but thank you for giving me the rundown of the exact steps you took. But it's a metaphor for their relationship and then picking up the pieces and moving back on. But of course they don't actually do that because Cassie is just a gold digger at this point, I suppose. She doesn't actually care about Nate. So she asks him about the man who cut off his toe. How much do you owe this guy? He says, you know, like, about $1 million. She is somewhat horrified, and then she just leaves. And that is kind of funny. There's a lot of stuff that's happening with Cassie's character where I'm like, it is funny. Like, it is a very comedically written role. But it didn't used to be, which is a little frustrating, of like, you've now reduced this character into just a caricature that doesn't really make sense with their first season, even their second season development. But then also, I'm like, if you ever want me to feel something for this woman again, you can't keep writing her this way, because I don't think of her as a real person at this point. I think of her as just like a funny side character, even though she takes up so much screen time. Like, she's a side character who is in half of the scenes. So I'm never going to care about her, like, that much as a person. Now, the toe is a metaphor, but the foot injury, it appears, is real. I don't think he lost his toe, but apparently Jacob Elordi, he can't be a Cannes Film Festival juror because he injured his foot. And it says weeks after Euphoria star linked with Kendall Jenner. Like, the fuck does that have to do with anything? Do we think she injured his foot? But also, why can't you be a juror with an injured foot? Don't you just watch the movies or something? I don't know what they do, but I feel like you could do it with an injured foot. But, you know, it's just kind of funny. Life imitates art. Lost his toe on the show, injured his foot in real life. Kendall Jenner maybe has something to do with it. Who's to say? But so Cassie calls Maddie. She calls the one person who could actually help her, which is Maddie, because Maddie is now like a digital pimp. So she's gonna help Cassie become a star on OnlyFans or something. But I do just like to see the two of them together, even though I don't think of Cassie as a person a whole lot now. I like the dynamic. So then they do like a makeover scene, which...
Do something about your look. Okay. The goal is to take her from the suburbs to the city. You look good, bitch.
She looks a mess. I mean, she looks basically the same. I was so confused by this makeover scene because I thought we were going to get like a real transformation. It's like, no, but that's the same. It's just like now she's wearing something a little bit trashier in a way. But she was already kind of trashy. So, like, what? I don't think that Cassie ever really was suburbanized that much. So that was weird. Just an unnecessary little sequence of events. And then the music in that scene. So in that little edit that they put for social media, that music actually kind of works better. Listen to this.
Okay. The goal is to take her from the suburbs to the city.
So that's the music in the little promo thing. Here's the music in the show. Like, what does Hans think that he's doing? What show does he think he's working on? Then we move on to a Jules subplot. And this one is already, this is the most annoying scene, little like sequence from the show, because it is sparking a lot of obnoxious discourse online. And I blame Sam Levinson because it is fully just the way that he's writing these characters. Because this is the problem too, is like people are trying to defend the characters, but it's the way that Sam's written them, he's written them to be kind of unreasonable people. So it's like, you can make a defense for either one of the characters, kind of. But ultimately, it's like, well, maybe Sam shouldn't have just written them to be so fucking stupid. So it starts off, first of all, Jules is watching something on her laptop in her bed, wearing an outfit no one would ever wear. In their bed, just watching stuff on their laptop. But what actually bothered me more than this is the fact that, like, when it actually shows her laptop screen, she's watching some, like, reality show or something, but it's definitely not on the actual screen. This is something that TV shows do all the time. This is a pet peeve that I have. I hate when I can tell that they've just put a screen onto, like, a blank, like, laptop screen or something. They've just superimposed it onto it later, because it's like the way that light and stuff reflects off of a screen, it's so different. And I could tell so much that laptop was not playing that content in real life. I could tell that they put that on in post, and I didn't like it. But that's an issue that I have. That's not necessarily an issue with the show. That's just an issue that I have. But so she's watching this reality show on her laptop. She gets a call from Lexi, who is working on this show, LA Nights, which is like a primetime soap opera, I think. So I think it is. This is where I'm like, Lexi does seem to be a stand-in for Sam Levinson in some ways, and it's very interesting that she's so not a part of the show, because it does feel like a self-insert in a few ways. But so Lexi calls Jules, tells her, we need a painting for an episode, because I guess in LA Nights, one of the characters is a painter. Jules is a painter, so they're like, we need you to paint something that this character painted. And she explains to Jules that, like, this will be a very, very good opportunity for you, because there are 7 million people that watch this show every week. So she tells her that. She tells her there are 7 million people watching, and then she says that the character in the show is inspired by George Seurat, and specifically says, and I wrote this down, a Sunday in the park picnic kind of feel. Those are the instructions that Lexi gives to Jules. And she also does say, do whatever you feel. She's like, oh, it just needs to be like, it doesn't need to be an exact replica of a George Seurat painting, just kind of like your interpretation, do whatever you feel. So when Lexi said Sunday in the park picnic kind of feel, this is, I guess, what Jules heard.
100 dicks and 2 sweet teas.
2 sweet teas and what else?
100 dicks.
100 what?
Dicks. 100 dicks and 2 sweet teas.
She makes, like, essentially a recreation of the Sunday in the Park painting, but where everyone is like these deformed figures that are like naked and have dicks, and there's, I guess, 14 dicks in the painting, which Lexi had no idea that Jules was gonna play in her face like that. It is just very ridiculous. So when the executives at this TV show see this painting, which, by the way, they don't even see it, they cover the painting and then put it up on the set where they reveal the painting, and that's when they all look at it for the first time and are like, oh, it's full of dicks, and they're not happy about it.
It was just like, no big deal. Like, sucking dick and cock. Like, I'm just like, oh my god. Time and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
So they're upset about it. Lexi then, as these producers are looking at the painting and they're like, what is wrong with your friend? Why did she do this? Lexi says, well, she's trans. And it's like, oh my fucking god. There are so many things in this show where Jules' transness doesn't have to be that central to her character, but apparently it's all Sam Levinson knows how to write. Like, he sits down and he's like, oh, okay, what's Jules getting up to this week? And he goes, well, first of all, she is trans, so we're gonna have her painting women with dicks. Like, what? Why is Jules so obsessed with her own trans identity? Why can't she just exist as like a person on like a day-to-day basis? Like, obviously the trans stuff is going to come up, and especially it made a lot of sense in the first season when she was in high school. But now, like, can I see an adult having an adult life that isn't like 100% rooted around her gender identity and rooted around her anatomy? The fuck? She doesn't know how to paint anything else. She can only paint women with dicks. It just feels so outrageously transphobic for Sam to write. But then, it's like, why is she so dumb? Like, completely misreading everything in a way.
I will fuck this whole scene up right now. Oh my mama, I will fuck all this shit up. Fuck this show. Fuck all these bitches. I will fuck this whole...
Here's the thing. So they go on to explain that because Lexi didn't fully explain to Jules what they were looking for this painting, the other executives, or like the producers and whatever, they tell Lexi that she lost them an hour and a half of shooting. That hour and a half cost them $56,000, and her failure to communicate has costed the production $191,000. And this is where I'm like, is this a self-insert for Sam? Is he complaining about the amount that like other people have complained about him costing the production of Euphoria and The Idol and everything else? He has cost that studio hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. Like, is this where Sam is getting out his frustrations of like him being an incompetent filmmaker? Because it's like, well, that doesn't even really make sense with Sam's situation, because everything that I know about people complaining about Sam costing people money, it's not because of like a failure to communicate with one person. He just shows up onto set without having mapped out what shots they're gonna get and stuff. Like, he doesn't storyboard anything. And so he shows up on set and they don't know what they're supposed to be filming that day. That's a little different from the situation that Lexi is in, which is a more like isolated incident. So it's not even totally comparable. But then also, Lexi was being kinda dumb in the fact that she didn't fully explain things to Jules. So, like, do you think that you're that dumb? But I don't know, because even then, it's like, Lexi's was a more kind of innocent mistake. You seem more, like, thoroughly just disorganized and uncommunicative. And then this person said, this scene made me wonder, I can't show too much of this because the penises are there, and I feel like YouTube, well, though I don't know, because it is in art, it's in painting, so maybe I can get away with it. But this scene made me wonder what kind of notes HBO executives have had for Jules' plotline, especially since her screen time has decreased each season. And I'm like, maybe this is Sam expressing frustration at HBO for him not being able to explore things related to Jules being trans. But I'm like, but first of all, maybe the issues that HBO executives have, if we're going with this reading, maybe the issue that they have is the fact that he will only write Jules to be a trans person and he won't write her doing anything else. Like, at this point to say, especially since her screen time has decreased each season, it's like, well, if there being limitations on the amount that Sam can explore things related to Jules' transness, if that's an issue, that he has limitations on that, and that leads to him just cutting Jules' character out of the show almost completely, that doesn't make Sam look very good, because that makes it again seem like the only thing that he knows about Jules as a character is that she's trans. He hasn't thought about her as a character beyond that whatsoever. He's only, when he looks at Jules, and maybe even when he looks at Hunter Schafer, he just thinks girl with penis, girl with penis, girl with penis over and over again. So, like, that might be the bigger issue here, that he can't just write Jules as a person for, like, one plot line. But then also, it's like, is the issue in the scene, does it actually even have that much to do with Jules being trans? Because I think that the issue was just that they didn't want that much nudity in a network show, which they go on to explain. Jules, they're honestly very nice to Jules in that scene as well. Like, the other producers are just like, hey, we really think it's great. We think you're great. It just, this is a network show. I don't know if Lexi told you that, but we can't really have this many. They do at first say, they're like, we can't have this many penises on the show. And then Jules is like, well, how many do you want me to get rid of? And then they're like, all of them? And then she's like, well, are the breasts okay? And then they even say, probably just no nudity at all. So, like, okay, there is an implication of, like, they were mostly concerned with the penises, but they also, they really were, they didn't want any nudity in the show because it's a network show, which Lexi didn't explain. And, like, so there is definitely miscommunication here from Lexi in terms of, like, she should have been more clear when she talked to Jules in the first place of, like, hey, it has to be, like, fairly clean. This is a show that, like, will be watched by just, like, mainstream audiences, and also we have to deal with the FCC more, so, like, think about that. Like, she should have said that. At the same time, I don't know why, if you're told that there were 7 million people watching the show, that already kind of implies mainstream audiences. So maybe if you want to draw penises, maybe you just, like, check and you're like, hey, is that okay? Or is this, like, is it too focused on, like, middle America for that? And then they could just tell you, like, oh, it's too focused on middle America for that. Please keep the nudity not even to a minimum, just don't include it. Like, there was a little bit of common sense that Jules could have used that she did not. But okay, Lexi was miscommunicating things. Jules then gets very upset at everything afterward. Like, they give her an opportunity. They're like, okay, we just need you to, like, just paint clothes on them. Just change the painting and just put some clothes on them so they're not as naked. That's all she had to do. But she says that there were too many limitations. She's like, I'm struggling with all the limitations. And it's like, well, but this is a network show. Like, this was an opportunity for you to get your name out there. So, like, deal with it. Like, this isn't just something that's going up in a gallery for you. This is just a thing you're doing essentially for marketing. Like, you do have to sacrifice your artistic statements just a little bit, you know? You still make something that, like, works with you, but just, like, take it down a notch a little bit. And not even just for your own sake, not even just for the marketing. If you're not interested in that at all, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. If you don't want to get that exposure, if it's not worth it to you for you to make something that didn't feel authentic to you, that's fine. Don't take the job then. And don't screw over your friend who got it for you for essentially nothing. Like, she just called you and was like, hey, do you want this opportunity? You took it, now you fucked over your friend. Like, now Lexi is in trouble because you couldn't not draw dicks. I don't know. But there's a lot of people defending Jules right now and saying, I desperately need y'all to understand this is not about the studio didn't like it, why didn't Jules know better? It's about how boobs are good and dick is bad, and if you have both and you're not ashamed of it, then you're othered, outed, and cast out. And it's like, well, they were also upset with the boobs too. They didn't want those in the shot either. You can kind of see the dicks there, but it's fine. YouTube won't know the difference. But okay, I get that, and I think that this is where I'm like, there actually would have been a way for them to pull off this kind of plot line of, like, Jules did something that was too close to indicating something related to her transness and they freaked out, but it's like, but this, in particular, this scene doesn't work because obviously the network show doesn't want any nudity. Like, that, you're putting Jules into this position where she just still looks stupid for not anticipating that, and then also looks whiny as hell for not just putting clothes on them, or even just saying, like, no thank you. She, like, gets upset, repaints over it, still in the set, by the way. They never moved this back off of the set, so she is doing all this, like, red paint and stuff on the set of the thing that they're shooting. And I was like, what if she gets fucking paint everywhere? I mean, she probably even would. She's wearing an apron, so she knows that there's a high likelihood of the paint splashing back. Oh, she's still wearing white, which is an interesting decision. But what if you get paint all over their fucking set? Now you've made it even worse. So none of the decisions Jules is making here are rational. But also, it just makes Jules look so, like, whiny and entitled. I don't agree with saying slow as hell. But this person is right about how are you an art major and you don't know how to work depending on context and target audience. I guess she did drop out of college, so she's not an art major anymore. But it's true of, like, yeah, how she really can't adapt her shit whatsoever to, like, get herself a good gig. Or, like, at least get her name out there. It's kind of like in Rent. You know how in Rent the characters keep, like, not taking jobs and stuff because they don't want to be, like, sellouts, but then they keep complaining about the fact that they can't pay their rent. And it's like, well, okay, at some point you have to make a fucking sacrifice, don't you? Everybody else does. Sure, it sucks. You don't get to be the artist that you want to be, but boo-hoo, you had to get a job, like the rest of the fucking world. And I think the issue, and also as Amy's saying, Sam's privileged because Blind Spots makes writing these types of storylines so cringy. Yeah, the problem is that, like, Sam is a Nepo baby who's never actually had a job at all. So, how would he know? How would he know what most people who want to make it in the arts actually have to do to make it in the arts? He's like, oh, if they don't accept your vision right away, just be really pouty and weird about it. It's like, okay, yeah, you can do that. Most people can't. And Jules is not in a position to, I guess maybe she is because she's got this sugar daddy or something. but it's just making her look like kind of dumb. But maybe this is really the direction he wants to take the character in, because as I said in the wedding episode, the dress that Jules wore to the wedding, I was like, that just doesn't feel like a dress anyone would wear to a wedding, even someone who was like kind of fashionable. And so maybe this is just the thing about Jules's character, is like she just cannot read the moment. She cannot make decisions based on like the appropriateness of the situation. Maybe that's it. She has one mode, and she's just gonna wear whatever outfit she wants wherever she wants. And maybe that's, but even in the bed, I'm like, it just would have been an uncomfortable dress to wear in the bed. But I guess that's it. She just doesn't ever adapt herself to her situation in a way that's actually just kind of inhibiting to her like opportunities in life. Maybe that's all her character is at this point. Whatever. They're both kind of wrong, I guess. Lexi should have explained it to Jules more, but also Jules should have just taken the notes better. And the main villain here is Sam for writing the characters this way. But we did get a nice little scene of Maddie and Rue and Cassie and Lexi all together. So it does seem like people were speculating from the last episode that maybe Zendaya doesn't want to be like in a scene with Sydney or Jacob, and that's why she wasn't in the wedding. Which at this point, I guess we haven't seen her with Jacob a whole lot, so it still could be Jacob, but it does seem like she is comfortable being in a scene with Sydney Sweeney. So I have a feeling that Sam wrote her out of the wedding episode just because he hates us. Because he's a bad writer. But we do have the group here, and I do like that. Something about them all being in a scene is kind of healing. I liked the dynamic here. And I love the dynamic between Maddie and Rue. Rue essentially comes up to Maddie because Alamo had Lori's bird killed in the last episode. Lori is now like out of the picture for Rue in the current moment. Not really, but as far as she believes right now, she is out of the picture because they're not dealing with Lori anymore. They were getting drugs through Lori previously. Now she's not their dealer. And Rue is like, well, fuck. I'm supposed to be getting information for the cops. I've got to like record them doing a drug deal so that the cops can use that as evidence and like lock these guys up, and then I get a plea deal or whatever. So now she's kind of fucked because they're not getting drugs through Lori anymore, so she's got to figure out how to get them caught on another drug deal. So she's gone to Maddie and is like, hey, I need drugs. And then people are like, oh my god, I thought you were sober, which she's not. I don't even really know what the story is with Rue's sobriety at this point, because at one point they referenced her being California sober, and I'm like, I thought that was like a lie? But maybe that was true, because we haven't really seen her doing any hard drugs for a while. So I guess maybe she is just California sober? I'm not sure. But they freak out. They're like, oh my god, you want drugs? And then she's like, no, it's for my boss. And Maddie's like, well, I don't feel comfortable giving you drugs. And it's like, okay, that was a responsible decision for Maddie to make. Understood. But also, how is Maddie getting drugs? What are Maddie's hookups? Why haven't we seen much of that? I guess she's in the industry, so she knows more people? But how? How does she know this many more people? Can we see anything about, like, these characters, their daily lives? Can they feel real to us? Or am I supposed to just everything that you say in any moment? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's something that Maddie does sometimes. She sometimes is like a go-between for drug dealers. Okay, sure, if you say so. Rue is now 3D printing guns. Okay, if you say so. He's just making shit up as he goes along. But I did like seeing them all together. And also, Going back to the group scene. Lexi is being judgmental as per usual. But look at Maddie is filming Cassie for the OnlyFans for like content. And they've got a blow thing, leaf blower, whatever you call that, to like get wind on her hair. But like, they did the whole makeover scene. She looks the fucking same. She looks exactly the same. There's no update in her look whatsoever. This is the kind of shit that she was wearing in her OnlyFans in episode 2. Whatever. They didn't need that makeover scene. But then we go back to Nate. While Cassie is launching her OnlyFans, Nate is at a county meeting begging them to allow him to build this, whatever the fuck, I guess like old folks home or something. I don't know. I do want to clarify because someone commented something. I said something in the last stream about like, I don't even know what Nate does. And someone was like, oh, well, they did say it in the show that he's like a contractor. He like works in construction like his dad did. And I'm like, I did know that part, I should say. I knew that he was involved in like building construction and like investment properties and stuff. I know that. When I was saying I don't know what he does, I mean I don't know what he does on a daily basis. And that's the same thing with all these other characters. Like Maddie, like how the hell does Maddie have these connects? I don't know. I just know because they've told me that she does. With Nate, I'm like, I know roughly that he's working in construction. I know that he's working in some sort of like building development shit, but I don't see him doing his job. So when I say I don't know what he does, I mean specifically, I don't know what he does on a daily basis. I don't know what he is getting up to in the scenes that we're not seeing him doing things. And we don't see him doing much in terms of his business. We see him like talking to like another guy who he's trying to get money from for like a minute. And then that's it. But in this scene, this is my frustration with it, is like, he says something about, he's like, oh, okay, he's trying to get around the white fritillary thing by, he's now constructing the building around the flowers. And he, like, instead of moving the flowers to put the building, he's gonna put the building in a way that the flowers can stay where they are. And he's like, I've had my construction guys, I've had my design guys drafting this thing. And I'm like, could I have seen that? Could I see him working on that? Could I see him like consulting with people and being like, okay, the building needs to go around this? Like, can his job feel real to me in any way? He's apparently working with contractors. He's apparently working with people who are putting together these, like, whatever little like diagram he's got there. Can I see him doing that? Please? Don't just like show up in the parts that you think are the most interesting. Because especially it's like, I want that tension. I want to like see him working on something and then going to the county meeting and then getting shot down. And then it feels real to me. It feels like, oh God, that really sucks that he was like putting all that work into what he was doing and then it just got shot down. I feel nothing for this character in this moment because I didn't fucking see him doing anything. I haven't seen him do any work. I've just seen him complaining about the people standing in his way for doing that work. That means nothing to me emotionally. And also it means nothing to me because I'm like, who is this character? He is a completely different guy. Nate in the first season would not be on his fucking knees begging anyone for anything. Who is this man? And also, it's like, why is he still so beat up? Days have passed since he got the shit beat out of him, and it looks like there's still blood smeared on his face. He didn't wash his face ever? A lot of this would have healed by now. Like, what's going on? There is no universe around these characters at all. We see them in the moments that we see them, and then it's like they don't exist in between those times. Even though apparently they've been doing stuff. But what they've been doing is so indescript that it's like it doesn't feel like that it even happened to them. And then again, it's like the fact that his face still looks like this, like he hasn't taken a shower, like he hasn't healed at all. Why? That being said, and it is kind of a shame, there are some moments where Jacob's performance, he's definitely like phoning it in. And I don't blame him because I'm like, what's he supposed to do with this writing? How's he supposed to fix it? But there are times when I'm like, I wish he was phoning it in because, like, he is actually giving a really good performance here. And I thought he was giving a pretty good performance in the wedding scene, too, like when they were doing the dance and everything. I was like, he actually is kind of giving this his all, but, like, for what? Because it doesn't make sense with his character anymore. But he's putting on a good performance here.
Here it is. I'm begging you, Bill.
And that's it's like he's saying, I'm begging you, Bill. Who's Bill? Clearly, this is like a person that he's been dealing with multiple times, but like, can I see that? Can I see anything? Can I like feel the frustration of Nate having to deal with this one guy? Can we have like actual development of this dynamic here? Instead of just telling me that it exists. And also, I don't even understand, too, when he's pitching, Bill is the only one who shoots him down. He just says motion dismissed. And I'm like, don't they have to vote on it? Isn't that how things like that work? Why isn't that why you have multiple people in those seats? Is like they're supposed to like do a vote? How is one guy dismissing it? Maybe I don't know how it works enough. But it doesn't seem like it works like this. But what the fuck would Sam know? He's never had an actual job. In this scene also, it feels, when I'm talking about like the conservative propaganda, this whole thing does feel kind of anti-government in a way. It feels like anti-government regulation. Like the thing that's actually fucking Nate's life up is the fact that like there's environmental protections on the plot of land he wants to develop. He's having his whole life ruined because of some endangered species of flower that the county won't let him move. And like, I'm supposed to be frustrated with that of like, oh, that's so unfair. They're just flowers. He should be able to move them. And I'm like, no, but in like a real life context, I'm glad that there are rules about what you can do with endangered species of plants. Like, I think that's a good thing. You want me to think it's a bad thing because it's gonna fuck with this one fictional character's plans that you're not even, again, I'm not even emotionally invested in his entire plot line. I've been given nothing to feel emotionally invested in his development of this one building. Oh, it's bad. It's just badly written. Badly written. But Cassie moves out. She pawns off her wedding ring, starts living in this, like, apartment-ish, kind of motel-looking situation, but it's like an apartment. But it happens to be across the little yardway thing from her sister Lexi, which I think is probably going to be indicative of... It's probably foreshadowing for Lexi writing something in LA Nights that's related to Cassie and that whole situation, and the thing with Jules probably too. We're probably just going to see an episode of LA Nights at some point that's similar to the high school play scene from the second season, because that's all Sam knows how to do is just like retread the shit he's already fucking done. So then there's a poker scene that's not super relevant, but Rue is playing poker with Alamo and his guys. She's acting kind of suspicious because she's trying to get them to, like, get a new drug deal going. She's recording them with her phone. She's trying to get them caught. And she's acting suspicious, but it happens to work out that he thinks that she's acting suspicious because she just wants drugs because she's a drug addict, and that's it. So, kind of works out, but Rue is not being very slick with anything. But she does have, it turns out, because of all the time that she's recording people on her phone, her background is her and Fez, which is cute. This is the kind of tribute that I think makes sense. Instead of having him off camera talking on the phone with her for things that I know can't ever happen because Angus Cloud is dead, this is like a cute tribute. If they had just kept it to this, everything would have been fine. And so then Cassie and Maddie go to this party with this influencer who's got like 20 million followers. Maddie tells Cassie, like, you need to just get him to post a video of you looking hot, and that's how we're gonna get you followers. And this is like the only time I've seen this person is talking shit about the scoring for this scene. This is like the only time for me where the score, the Hans Zimmer score for this has actually kind of worked, because it's so out of place that it becomes like, it like works good like in contrast. There's a juxtaposition here that I appreciate. So like this I'm fine with. Yeah, that works for me. Does it work kind of on accident? Because that's what the whole show kind of sounds like now? Maybe, but it works. It works in that scene. But so Maddie's there, or not Maddie, well, both of them are there. Maddie and Cassie are there, but Cassie's out, like, trying to be hot, making out with this girl. I think it's the girl from the first episode that had been Maddie's, like, original client. So she talks to her a little bit. She seems a little pissed off that Maddie has got a new client now. Still don't understand why she had to drop that client in the first place, but okay. They go into a room with Brandon and start doing coke. And Sydney is actually, she's very good in this scene, to be honest. She's honestly, this is a great episode for her. She kind of nailed it. She's killing it. You know, I don't always talk that positively about Sydney Sweeney, but she nailed it. But then she's in the room. It's getting like a little dicey in terms of this guy definitely wants to have sex with Cassie. It seems like maybe Cassie will even allow it to go that far. So Maddie starts pounding on the door because Sam has to redo everything that was popular before. So the scene of Maddie pounding on the door in season 2, she's now pounding on a new door. To remind you that, don't you love it when Maddie pounds on doors? Where Cassie is inside doing something that she maybe shouldn't be doing? But then Maddie eventually gets into the room and breaks up whatever is happening between Cassie and this other guy. Oh, and the other girl does go puke for a minute, so there is some puke in this episode, but there's no piss and no shit. So pretty good. Just some vomit. But Maddie eventually gets in the room. Someone's filming. I don't know who the fuck that is. But
Hey Brandon, who's your new friend?
Yo.
It's just me, Cassie, and that's my handle.
it's good. She was good this episode. She was very good. She does know what she's doing. And it's a little confusing of like, was this whole thing their plot? Because it didn't seem like it. They didn't have this detailed of a plot before. They went in and Maddie literally just said, the goal is to get him to post a video of you looking hot. It was not this specific, but the way that Maddie walks in, it seems like she's a part of this plan somehow, even though it didn't seem like that earlier. I don't know. I don't know what exactly is supposed to be going on here, but apparently it works because they're filming Cassie. She says the thing about, it's just Cassie and that's my handle, which, your handle for what? Is your entire, there's no way that your handle is just Cassie, because there's no way that's available on every different platform. But then it's just Cassie? I don't believe that's available on every platform either. I think that someone probably already took that. But also, there's some platforms where that's just too fucking long of a handle. They won't let you have all those characters. But okay, fine, whatever. It works for the plot. She ends up getting a whole bunch of followers. It is fairly contrived, but it works. So now Cassie's got, I think in the preview for the next episode, she's got, what did they say, 50,000 followers or something? I don't remember. And I'm like, followers on what? On OnlyFans specifically? Or like her Instagram? What are we talking about? But as all of this is happening, another thing is happening with Ms. Lizzie Grant. So she takes these guys, she's dancing in the club, and then she gets these guys, takes them into a room where people presumably either do like lap dances or they have sex. It's unclear if every girl in the club does that, but some of them definitely do. And I guess Lizzie Grant is one of them. So she goes in there with a group of guys. There's a few of them. She's having sex with them. Rue at some point starts seeing this happen on the security cam that's in the room, which we've been made aware a few times that there is a security camera in that room. She's in Alamo's office looking at what's happening with Kitty, with Lizzie Grant, and she's like horrified by it at first, and I'm like, well, but this is what a lot of the girls at this club do, and we don't necessarily know at this point that this is non-consensual. This could just be what she's doing for her job, so I don't see any reason to be so horrified right now. Like, you work in this club, you know what happens. But then there's an implication, they take a champagne bottle, and there is an implication that they put the champagne bottle inside of her. Maybe somewhat similar to a bottle situation with somebody else that we know of, but a different situation, because it up to this moment, it doesn't seem like she's not consenting. But then there's an implication now that she's not consenting, that she's there because she's been coerced, but we don't actually hear her ever say that. In fact, I wrote this down, she's introduced in the second scene of the episode, like at 5 or 6 minutes into the show. She's in a few scenes throughout the entire episode. She does not speak until the 39-minute line. Like, it's like a 45-minute show, ultimately, when they add in everything else. So, like, kind of the end of the episode, she speaks for the first time. And what she says in this room, she says, "So what would you like?" to the men. And that's the only thing we hear her saying. They then go through this whole scene with these guys and the champagne bottle. Then there's a bathroom scene with Rue and Kitty, where Rue is asking her, like, are you okay? Kitty only says, at that moment, she says, "Do you have more ketamine?" Then Rue asks her, "Are you being forced to be here?" To which Kitty says, "I like to dance." Those are the only lines that she has. And then Rosalia was in the bathroom too. She was like in a stall. She comes out after hearing Rue asking Lizzie Grant if she is being forced to be there. So she just kind of whistles. Does a great job, really. I think that Rosalia's performance in this episode is very, very good. So now Rosalia is about to go tell Alamo that Rue is checking on the girls to see if they're being forced to work there. And here's my whole thing with the Kitty situation. I am absolutely down for a plotline where we find out that the women in this club are, like, coerced in some way, that, like, the club itself is sex trafficking these women. I'm fine with that. I'm not fine with the sex trafficking, but I'm fine with that as a plotline because that kind of stuff happens plenty. What I'm not fine with is the fact that the sex trafficking victim in this case is not a person. She does not get to speak. She, up until the scene with the bottle and up until the scene with Rue in the bathroom, she seemed like she was fine with everything that was going on. Like, she was smiling all the time, even when she wasn't talking. She was, like, seemed eager to let Alamo and his guys look at her ass. It just, like... Is the implication that, like, all sex work is sex trafficking? That it doesn't matter how consenting it looked at the time? That it's just automatically sex trafficking because it's sex work. Like, there is a very, like, weird anti-sex work bent to this show, which I even think that elements of it are fine because there is a lot of exploitation in the sex industry. Like, what Maddie was doing is, like, a form of sex trafficking in some ways. With Cassie, it's fine because Cassie was okay with it to begin with, but, like, she was kind of pushing that other girl into doing some other stuff and, like, convincing her to make an OnlyFans account in the first place. Cassie came up with that idea herself, so I don't really care there. But, like, okay, there are things that we can say about, like, what Maddie's doing. There are things about this club that absolutely can be explored that hits at, like, real life shit. You can explore all of that. But, like, when we're doing this thing of... when we're doing an anti-sex work plotline and narrative and theme, and one of the big victims of the sex work and the sex trafficking that you're implying doesn't talk, it almost feels like an inadvertent representation of what a lot of anti-sex work advocacy actually is, which is like, we just inflict a victim narrative onto someone without ever actually letting them speak for themselves. This character has no agency because she is not written to have any agency, because Sam Levinson doesn't care what this character does or doesn't want. He just wants to always imply that something bad is happening, because that's just what he likes. He just kind of likes implying that. Not even implying, he likes showing women in degrading situations and never exploring their agency outside of that degrading situation. Like, he just doesn't care about these people as people. It's just very frustrating. Especially because there is, like, a growing anti-sex work perspective in, like, Zoomers especially, that, like, all sex work is sex trafficking, which is not true. Like, and to think that that's true is to remove the agency of people who are consenting to what they do. And that's not something I'm okay with. I definitely think that there are issues in sex work. There are issues in the sex industry. But to just paint over all of it and be like, oh, it's all bad, it's all gross. It even, like, it reduces, it dismisses the actual, like, trauma of the people who are actually being sex trafficked, because we're not thinking of their situations as separate from a consenting situation. And this is feeding into that. Like, I'm seeing so many fucking people on my timeline right now being like, well, of course they're all being sex trafficked all the time because they're doing sex work. It's like, well, no, whether or not they chose to be there is actually, like, really imperative to what their relationship to their job is. It's not automatically sex trafficking just because it's sex work. It's sex trafficking when it's sex trafficking. It's sex trafficking when they are being coerced. And you have to show me that they were coerced for me to take that stance, that they're being trafficked. And Sam just isn't really willing to do that. He doesn't really even want to fully explore the idea of consent. He just wants to, like, I don't know, finger wag at all of it. I don't know what his fucking deal is. But so then we go to the next scene where Rosalia is telling Alamo about what she heard Rue say. Rue then comes in, is defending herself. She gets a call from the cops, which it shows up on her thing as, like, her mom calling. So she answers it. And they tell her, like, oh, you need to, like, get him to turn on Rosalia. You need to discredit her. And so she starts getting into it with Rosalia, accusing her of, like, lying. They get into a fight, and this, I don't know if anyone in here speaks Spanish, like, fluent Spanish, but apparently, because Rosalia is, like, her lines are in Spanish. She is yelling at Rue in Spanish. And then Rue is yelling back in English, but, like, apparently the dialogue is repeating on Rosalia's end. And in a way that I'm not sure, sometimes, you know, when you're in an argument with someone, you might repeat the same point like over and over again. You're like, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. So like maybe it could be something like that. But from the way that I'm seeing some people talking about it on Twitter, it seems like it's actually like the way that it's repeating doesn't make sense for this conversation. And perhaps the people working on the show didn't catch it because they don't speak Spanish. No one in the editing room spoke Spanish, so they just didn't care and didn't notice. But let me know, anyone in here that speaks Spanish, what you think of this.
Hood rat. ¿Qué hablas? Hood rat de qué, pedazo puta? Hood rat. Hood rat. That's what you are. Que te calles la puta boca ya, que como sigas hablando mierda te cojo y te rajo, hija de puta.
Liar. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying.
Me cago en tus muertos ya. Te cojo y te rajo.
I can't understand.
Hija de puta.
Okay, hey.
Me cago en
So
tus
you're
muertos
saying
ya.
I think it's right there, like repeating right in this part. But I don't know Spanish enough. I'll let it continue just in case there's more.
I can't understand.
Okay, hey. So you're saying you never spoke to Kid?
No,
So I don't know. Maybe it's just an editing error. But this is the thing too with Netflix when they hired the girl who played the lead in Amelia Perez. And then all of those tweets came out later. I'm like, does no one at Netflix speak Spanish? No one went through her Twitter? No one knew what she was saying before they hired her? And similarly, I'm like, no one who works on Euphoria, no one who could have been in that editing room spoke Spanish. It is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world. Sure, I don't speak it, but it is kind of ridiculous that apparently no one on that show does. And you have characters that speak Spanish. It's just fucking ridiculous. Ultimately, this scene really doesn't matter, though, because Rue is defending herself, but they get interrupted anyway by some bandits coming in. They come in to rob the safe. And yeah, Alamo boy, I'm so bored. Why don't we invest in some security? They get in real fucking easy, it seems. They get into Alamo's room. They've got him... They've also got like Obama masks on, like fabric masks. They come in, they've got guns, they put both Rosalia's character and Rue at gunpoint and are about to shoot them. Alamo is kind of like, whatever. Then they shoot him and we get a whole bunch of blood on Rue's face, which she looks real cool. Because she's pissed, because he was about to just let her get shot and die. They shoot him, then they threaten to shoot his dick and balls off, and that's when he's suddenly like, okay, I'll open the safe. So, definitely, his priorities are clear. He does not give a fuck about these women. We already kind of knew that, but it's now extremely obvious. But then the bandits get away, they get the stuff in the safe, they get into a car, they drive off. They've already removed all the plates from the car, so they can't track them with that. They had masks on, can't identify them from the masks. But they can identify something, and this was kind of funny. So they see on the security footage, the driver of the getaway car has these huge inflated lips, which obviously means that it's Faye, who is working for Lori at the moment, or maybe not even working for Lori, but like having sex with the Nazi men that work for Lori. I don't really even know what she's doing there, other than she's having sex with the Nazis. But so now we know that this was like a Lori thing because of Faye's lips, and I do think that that's funny. I think it is very funny that they got caught because of Faye's big-ass lips. It was a good touch, I'm not gonna lie. And to be honest, I do think this was the best episode of the season so far. I think there's still major problems with it, especially with the Kitty subplot is a little sus. And Cassie, like, I guess we've now just abandoned the characterizations from the first two seasons, and now she's just a dumb bimbo or something, but she is very funny. Like, all of those scenes were very entertaining. The Maddie Cassie stuff I'm still fairly interested in. The Lexi stuff, I don't know. I mean, she's just not in the show enough for me to feel that invested. But it was kind of funny. Like, even though I think the entire argument with the painting thing is stupid and he's made both of his characters dumber than they should be, it was funny. It was definitely funny. And I liked seeing Rue and Maddie and Lexi and Cassie all in one place. So there's things that I like about it. This was the best episode so far. For me. Do I have hope going forward that the rest of the season will be good? No. I don't. But it might at least be better than it was in the first 3 episodes? Maybe? I don't know. That's it. That's the recap. So, I'm gonna go eat something or something for the next little less than 2 hours, and then I will be back for the member stream where we will talk about various internet things, content creators. We'll shit talk some content creators as per usual. We'll also keep an eye on the Met Gala, because the Met Gala is tonight. I don't know when it starts exactly, but probably pretty soon. So I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the night on the member stream. And yeah. I will see the rest of you who don't come back for members and just come back for the next public Pop Girly News stream. I will see you next Monday. Bye!